Hello, English learners. Your host for today. And I'm so excited that you are here with me again. If you are new to this channel, let me quickly tell you something important. We upload a brand new English learning video every single day to help you improve your English faster, speak more confidently, and think naturally in English. So, if your goal is fluency, you are absolutely in the right place. In today's episode, we are going to do something very practical and very powerful. We are going to walk through my real morning routine, but not just as a story. We will turn every moment into real English conversation practice. You will learn how to describe your daily life naturally, how to respond in conversations, how to use advanced English phrases in simple situations, and how to more gradually move from basic English to a more advanced, fluent level. This lesson is designed to improve your listening skills, your speaking confidence, your vocabulary, and your sentence structure all at the same time. You will hear natural daily life expressions, conversational responses, advanced alternatives to simple phrases, and you will practice with me. Throughout the lesson, I will guide you step by step so that you are not just listening, but actively building your English. We will explore how to talk about waking up, morning habits, planning the day, interacting with family or coworkers, expressing feelings, giving opinions, and using richer vocabulary in everyday situations. Even simple sentences like, "I woke up early," can become more advanced when you know how to expand them naturally. And that's exactly what we're going to practice today. By the end of this video, you will feel more confident talking about your daily routine in English. You will know how to transform basic sentences into advanced ones, and you will have learned useful phrases that fluent speakers use in real conversations. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so you never miss a new English lesson, because daily exposure is one of the biggest secrets to becoming fluent. Now, take a deep breath, relax your mind, and imagine you are starting your morning with me. Let's build your English fluency together. Let's get started. Let's start with the very first moment of the day, the moment your eyes slowly open and your mind begins to wake up. This is a powerful time for English practice because morning routines are universal. Everyone wakes up, everyone begins their day, and that makes this topic perfect for real-life English conversation practice. When I wake up in the morning, I usually say to myself, "All right, time to start the day." That simple sentence already gives us a natural conversational structure. Instead of just saying, "I wake up at 7, we can say something more natural like, "I usually wake up around 7 in the morning, and the first thing I do is take a deep breath and mentally prepare for the day ahead." Notice how that sentence flows. It adds detail, it sounds more fluent, and it feels complete. Now, I want you to imagine someone asking you, "What time do you usually wake up?" Instead of giving a short answer like, 7, try responding in a full sentence. You could say, "I usually wake up at 7, but sometimes I hit the snooze button if I feel too tired." That phrase, "hit the snooze button," is very natural in English. It's a common expression that native speakers use, Repeat after me in your mind. I hit the snooze button because I'm not ready to get out of bed. Very good. Now, let's upgrade that sentence to a slightly more advanced level. You can say, I tend to hit the snooze button once or twice before I finally get up. The phrase, I tend to, makes your English sound more natural and more advanced. When I finally get out of bed, I usually stretch for a few minutes. Instead of saying, I stretch, you can say, I do a few light stretches to loosen up my muscles. That expression, loosen up, is extremely useful. For example, I like to loosen up before I start working. Or, I need a few minutes to loosen up in the morning. Now, let's practice. Imagine your friend asks, what's the first thing you do in the morning? You can respond, the first thing I do is stretch a little to loosen up and wake my body up. Excellent. After that, I head to the bathroom to wash my face and brush my teeth. Instead of basic English like, I wash my face, try saying, I splash some cold water on my face to feel refreshed. The word, refreshed, is more expressive than simply saying, awake. You could also say, it helps me feel more alert. The word, alert, is another strong vocabulary word. Let's practice a short conversation. Someone asks, how do you wake yourself up in the morning? You might say, I usually splash some cold water on my face and brush my teeth. It helps me feel more alert and ready to start my day. That sounds fluent and natural. Now, let's move to something very common, making coffee or tea. I usually say, I can't function without my morning coffee. That's a very natural conversational phrase. It doesn't mean you literally cannot function. It's just a humorous way to express how important coffee is to you. You could also say, I rely on my morning coffee to kickstart my day. Repeat this sentence in your mind. I rely on my morning coffee to kickstart my day and boost my energy levels. Notice, boost my energy levels. That's much stronger than saying, it gives me energy. Imagine someone asking you, are you a coffee person? Instead of saying, yes, I like coffee. You could say, yes, I'm definitely a coffee person. I look forward to my first cup every morning because it helps me feel focused and energized. The phrase, look forward to, is extremely important in English. Practice saying, I look forward to my morning coffee, or I look forward to starting my day peacefully. These phrases build natural fluency. While I drink my coffee, I often check my phone. But instead of saying, I check my phone, we can say, I quickly scroll through my notifications to see if there's anything urgent. The word urgent is very useful. Now, let's practice a short exchange. Someone says, do you check your phone first thing in the morning? You might respond, yes, I usually scroll through my notifications just to make sure there's nothing urgent I need to deal with. The phrase, deal with, is very conversational and powerful. Now, let's upgrade this even more. Instead of saying, I check my messages, try saying, I catch up on messages I might have missed overnight. The phrase, catch up on, is extremely common in daily English. Try repeating, I catch up on my messages while sipping my coffee. That sounds natural and descriptive. After that, I start preparing breakfast. Instead of saying, I make breakfast. Try saying, I prepare a simple but healthy breakfast to fuel my body for the day. The word fuel means giving energy. Practice saying, I prepare something light, yet nutritious, because I don't like feeling too full in the morning. The word nutritious is a great vocabulary upgrade. Now, imagine a real conversation. Someone asks, what do you usually have for breakfast? You could say, I usually have eggs and toast because it's quick to prepare and keeps me full for hours. You can also say, it keeps me going until lunchtime. Repeat, a good breakfast keeps me going until lunchtime. While eating breakfast, I sometimes think about my schedule for the day. Instead of saying, I think about my day, you can say, I mentally go over my schedule and prioritize my tasks. Practice saying, I prioritize the most important tasks so I can stay productive. That sentence sounds confident and fluent. Let's do a longer practice exercise. Imagine I ask you, what does your typical morning look like? Try answering like this. My typical morning starts around 7. I usually stretch for a few minutes to loosen up. Then I'll wash my face and brush my teeth. After that, I make a cup of coffee and scroll through my notifications to check if there's anything urgent. While drinking my coffee, I mentally go over my schedule and prepare myself for the day ahead. That answer is clear, structured, and natural. Now, let's elevate your English even more. Instead of saying, my morning starts at 7, say, my morning routine typically begins at around 7. Instead of, I make coffee, say, I brew a fresh cup of coffee. Instead of, I think about my tasks, say, I map out my priorities for the day. Practice this upgraded version. My morning routine typically begins at 7. I brew a fresh cup of coffee and map out my priorities for the day, while enjoying a quiet moment to myself. You can see how we are transforming basic English into more expressive and advanced English. Fluency is not about speaking fast. It's about speaking clearly, confidently, and naturally. Each small upgrade in vocabulary makes your speech richer and more engaging. Now, imagine you are talking to a colleague. They ask, how was your morning? You could respond, it was quite productive. I managed to stick to my routine and get a head start on my tasks. Repeat, I like to get a head start on my day. That sounds fluent and confident. As you can see, even a simple morning routine can become a powerful English lesson. Keep listening carefully, keep repeating in your mind, and most importantly, imagine yourself actually speaking these sentences in real life. That mental practice builds confidence and fluency faster than you think. We have just begun exploring the first part of the morning, and already you have learned multiple advanced phrases, like hit the snooze button, loosen up, kickstart my day, catch up on, fuel my body, prioritize my tasks, and get a head start. Now, we will go deeper into real-life morning conversations and start building even more advanced structures, naturally and smoothly, into your speech. Now, let's continue with the next phase of the morning, the moment when the day starts to feel more active and intentional. After finishing breakfast and reviewing my schedule, I usually transition into work mode. Instead of saying something simple like, I start working, you can say, I ease into my workday by tackling a small task first. The phrase ease into is very natural and conversational. For example, you might say, I like to ease into difficult projects rather than rushing into them. Notice the difference between start and ease into. One feels basic, the other feels fluent and thoughtful. Sometimes people ask, do you start with the hardest task or the easiest one? That's a great opportunity to practice more advanced English. You could respond, it depends on my energy level. If I feel focused, I dive straight into the most challenging task. If not, I begin with something simple to build momentum. The phrase dive straight into is powerful and expressive. It gives the image of jumping directly into something without hesitation. The word momentum is also very useful in both professional and casual conversations. Try repeating this full response in your mind. If I feel focused, I dive straight into my most challenging task. But if I'm feeling a bit sluggish, I start small to build momentum. Now, let's practice transforming basic sentences into advanced ones again. Basic sentence. I check my emails. Upgraded version. I go through my emails carefully and respond to the most pressing ones first. The phrase go through means review in detail. Pressing means urgent or important. Another alternative is I sort through my inbox and flag the emails that require immediate attention. The verb flag is commonly used in professional settings. It sounds advanced and confident. Practice saying, I flag important emails so I can address them promptly. The word promptly is another excellent vocabulary upgrade. Let's imagine a real conversation with a coworker. They ask, how do you stay organized in the morning? You might respond, I usually take a few minutes to organize my priorities, sort through my emails, and outline my main objectives for the day. That way, I don't feel overwhelmed. Notice the phrase, outline my main objectives. Instead of saying plan my work, you are using more professional vocabulary. The word overwhelmed is also extremely important. Repeat after me mentally. I try not to feel overwhelmed by breaking big tasks into smaller steps. That sentence alone is powerful and useful in many contexts. As the morning continues, there are often small interruptions. Maybe someone calls. Maybe a message comes in. Maybe something unexpected happens. Instead of saying, something happened, try saying, something unexpected came up. The phrase come up is very common in spoken English. For example, sorry, something came up, or let me know if anything comes up. You could also say, I had to deal with a few unexpected issues this morning. The word issue is softer and more professional than problem. Now, let's do a small practice dialogue. Imagine your friend asks you, did anything interesting happen this morning? You respond, actually, yes. A couple of unexpected issues came up, so I had to adjust my schedule slightly, but I managed to stay calm and handle everything efficiently. The phrase adjust my schedule is very natural. The adverb efficiently makes your English sound more advanced. Practice saying that entire response again, slowly, in your mind. Let's move into another common morning activity, getting ready to leave the house or preparing for meetings. Instead of saying, I get dressed, you can say, I get dressed in something comfortable yet professional. The word yet in this sentence adds sophistication. You can also say, I make sure I look presentable before stepping out. The word presentable is excellent. Vocabulary. Try this sentence. I always make sure I look presentable, especially if I have meetings scheduled. That sounds fluent and confident. Now, imagine someone asking you, how do you prepare for an important meeting in the morning? You could respond, I usually review my notes, gather my thoughts, and mentally rehearse what I want to say. That helps me feel more confident and articulate. The word articulate is advanced and extremely useful. It means able to express yourself clearly. Practice saying, I want to sound clear and articulate during my meetings. Let's deepen the vocabulary even more. Instead of saying, I think about what to say, I carefully consider how to phrase my ideas so they come across clearly. The phrase come across is very important. For example, I hope I came across as confident, or she comes across as very professional. Repeat this sentence in your mind. I want my ideas to come across clearly and confidently. Now, let's talk about mindset, because mornings are not just about actions, they are about mental preparation. Instead of saying, I try to think positive, you can say, I make a conscious effort to maintain a positive mindset. The phrase make a conscious effort is advanced and expressive. You can also say, I remind myself to stay focused and not get distracted by minor setbacks. The phrase minor setbacks is very useful. A setback is a small problem that slows progress. Practice saying, even if I experience minor setbacks, I try to stay composed. The word composed means calm and in control. Now, imagine a short motivational exchange. Someone asks you, what keeps you motivated in the morning? You respond, I remind myself of my long-term goals and focus on the bigger picture. That helps me stay motivated, even on days when I feel a bit tired. The phrase bigger picture is extremely common in professional English. Repeat. I try to focus on the bigger picture instead of small inconveniences. Let's build a longer practice response now. Imagine someone says, walk me through your entire morning routine. Try answering like this in your mind. My morning routine begins around 7 when I wake up and stretch to loosen up, after washing my face and brewing a fresh cup of coffee. I catch up on my notifications and mentally go over my schedule. Then I ease into my workday by tackling a small task to build momentum. If any unexpected issues come up, I adjust my schedule and handle them efficiently. Before any meetings, I review my notes and rehearse my main points so my ideas come across clearly. That is a complete, fluent, and confident response. Now, let's raise the level even further by upgrading certain phrases. Instead of I start working, say, I transition smoothly into my professional responsibilities. Instead of I handle problems, say, I address challenges proactively. The word proactively shows initiative. Instead of I stay calm, say, I maintain my composure under pressure. Practice repeating. I try to maintain my composure, even when things don't go as planned. The phrase don't go as planned is very natural. Let's also practice pronunciation rhythm mentally. Fluent English has rhythm. When you say, I like to get a head start on my day, stress the words head start. When you say, I try to stay composed, stress stay composed. That rhythm makes you sound natural. Now, let's imagine you are speaking to a friend in the evening, and they ask, Did you have a productive morning? You could respond, yes, I did. I managed to accomplish my main objectives and even got ahead on a few tasks. The phrase get ahead means to make extra progress. Repeat this in your mind. I managed to get ahead on a few tasks this morning. That's advanced conversational English. You are probably starting to notice something important. Basic English sentences are not wrong, but adding detail, expressive verbs, and natural phrases makes you sound fluent. The difference between I worked and I managed to accomplish my objectives efficiently is huge. And this transformation happens one phrase at a time. Before we move further into deeper conversational scenarios, take a moment to mentally summarize your own morning using some of the phrases you've learned so far. Try to describe your wake-up time, your first action, your breakfast, your work preparation, and your mindset using expressions like tend to, loosen up, kickstart, catch up on, prioritize, dive into, build momentum, adjust my schedule, come across clearly, and maintain my composure. The more you practice combining them naturally, the more fluent you will become. We are gradually moving from basic descriptions to advanced conversational fluency, and this is exactly how you elevate your English step by step. Now, we will move into deeper real-life conversation simulations, including casual chats, professional interactions, and spontaneous morning discussions that challenge you to respond naturally and confidently. Now, so let's move even deeper into real-life morning conversations, because fluency is not only about describing your routine, it is about responding naturally when someone interacts with you unexpectedly. Imagine you are at home, and a family member asks, "You seem energetic today. What's different?" Instead of saying something simple like, "I slept well," you could respond, "I actually got a full night's sleep, so I woke up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day." The phrase "a full night's sleep" sounds very natural, and the expression "ready to take on the day" feels energetic and confident. Try repeating that full sentence slowly in your mind. I got a full night's sleep, so I woke up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Now, let's upgrade it even further. You could say, I made it a point to go to bed early last night, and it really paid off this morning. The phrase "made it a point to" means you intentionally decided to do something, and "it paid off" means the result was positive. Practice saying, I made it a point to sleep earlier, and it paid off. This phrase can be used in many situations, not only about sleep. Let's imagine another situation. Someone says, "You look a bit rushed. Is everything okay?" Instead of saying, "Yes, I'm late," you could say, "I'm running a little behind schedule, but I'll catch up soon." The phrase "running behind schedule" is very common in professional English. You can also say, I got caught up in something unexpected. The phrasal verb "get caught up in" is extremely useful. For example, I got caught up in traffic. Or, I got caught up in a phone call. Repeat in your mind, I got caught up in something unexpected, but I'm back on track now. The phrase "back on track" is another powerful expression, now. Let's practice a longer conversational simulation. Imagine your coworker says, "How do you stay so consistent with your morning routine?" You respond, I try to stick to a simple structure. I don't overcomplicate things. I wake up at roughly the same time every day, take a few moments to gather my thoughts and focus on one priority at a time. Over time, consistency becomes a habit. Notice the phrase stick to. For example, I try to stick to my routine, or it's important to stick to your goals. The word consistency is also very powerful in advanced English. Let's expand that response even more. You could say, I've realized that discipline plays a huge role in productivity. Even on days when I don't feel particularly motivated, I show up and do what needs to be done. The phrase show up carries deep meaning. It means making the effort to stay present and committed. Repeat slowly. Even when I don't feel motivated, I show up and stay committed. Now, let's talk about small talk in the morning, because real English conversations often begin casually. Imagine you enter a meeting and someone says, "Good morning. How's your day going so far?" Instead of answering, "It's good," try saying, "It's been quite productive so far. I've already managed to clear a few tasks off my list." The phrase clear a few tasks off my list sounds natural and visual. You can also say, I've made solid progress on my priorities. Practice saying, I've made solid progress this morning. Now, let's practice variation. If your morning was slightly stressful, you could say, it's been a bit hectic, to be honest, but I'm getting things under control. The word hectic is very useful, and the phrase to be honest softens your response naturally. Repeat mentally. It's been a bit hectic, but I'm getting things under control. Let's explore emotional expression as well. Instead of saying, I feel tired, you can say, I'm feeling slightly drained this morning. Or you could say, I'm a little low on energy today, but I'll power through. The phrase power through sounds conversational and motivating. Practice saying, even if I feel tired, I try to power through my responsibilities. Now, imagine you are explaining your routine to someone who wants to improve their English, just like you. You could say, I believe that talking about your daily routine is one of the best ways to improve your English, because it forces you to describe real actions, real feelings, and real plans. You can also say, it pushes you out of your comfort zone. Repeat slowly. Practicing daily conversations pushes you out of your comfort zone. Let's build a longer advanced response. Imagine someone asks, why do you focus so much on your mornings? You respond, because mornings set the tone for the entire day. If I start my day with clarity and intention, I'm more likely to stay focused and productive. It creates a ripple effect that influences everything else I do. Practice saying that response slowly and confidently. Now, let's challenge you with a more complex exercise. Scenario: you overslept and woke up 30 minutes late. A colleague asks, everything okay this morning? You could respond, I overslept a bit and had to rush through my usual routine, but I've reorganized my schedule and I'm fully focused now. Notice the phrases, rush through, reorganized my schedule, and fully focused. Repeat the sentence again mentally. Let's elevate vocabulary further. Instead of saying, I was in a hurry, say, I was pressed for time. Instead of, I fixed my schedule, say, I restructured my agenda. Practice this upgraded sentence. I was pressed for time this morning, but I quickly restructured my agenda to stay on top of things. Now, let's move into deeper self-reflection. Over the years, I've come to appreciate the value of a structured morning routine. It gives me a sense of stability and control. Even when external circumstances feel unpredictable, my routine keeps me grounded. Repeat mentally. My routine keeps me grounded, even when life feels unpredictable. Notice how we are building not only vocabulary, but emotional depth in your English. You are not just describing actions, you are expressing thoughts, intentions, and reflections. This is how you transition from basic communication to advanced fluency. Now, let's do one more extended practice exercise. Imagine someone asks, "What advice would you give someone who wants to improve their English through daily routines?" You could respond, "I would suggest starting small. Begin by describing your morning out loud, even if it feels awkward at first. Pay attention to the words you use, and gradually replace simple expressions with more advanced ones. Over time, your vocabulary will expand naturally, and your confidence will grow. Take a deep mental breath and notice how far you've already come in this lesson. You've practiced phrasal verbs, advanced vocabulary, emotional expressions, professional phrases, and natural conversation responses, all through something as simple as a morning routine. This is exactly how real fluency is built, not through memorizing random words, but through structured, meaningful, daily life communication. Now, we will move into even more dynamic morning conversation scenarios, including spontaneous questions, deeper vocabulary upgrades, storytelling techniques, and advanced sentence structures that will stretch your English from basic to truly confident and fluent. Now, let's move into a more detailed storytelling phase of the morning, because storytelling is one of the most powerful tools for building advanced fluency. When you tell a story, you naturally connect actions, emotions, causes, and results. So imagine this. It's a slightly colder morning than usual. I wake up, and instead of jumping out of bed immediately, I pause for a moment and think about the day ahead. Instead of saying, "I thought about my day," I can say, "I took a brief moment to reflect on what the day might bring." The verb reflect is more advanced than think. Practice saying, "I reflected on my priorities before getting out of bed." As I finally get up, I notice the sunlight coming through the window. Instead of saying, "The sun was shining," you can say, "Soft sunlight streamed through the curtains, creating a calm and peaceful atmosphere." Words like streamed and atmosphere add richness to your English. Even when describing simple scenes, your vocabulary can elevate the level of your speech. Repeat in your mind. The sunlight streamed through the window, setting a peaceful tone for the morning. Notice again the phrase, "set the tone." Now, imagine I walk into the kitchen and realize I've run out of coffee. Instead of saying, "There was no coffee," I might say, "I realized I had run out of coffee," which threw off my usual routine. The phrase "threw off my routine" means it disrupted my normal pattern. That's a great phrasal verb. You can also say, "It caught me off guard." Practice that phrase. Running out of coffee caught me off guard. That expression is very natural in spoken English. So what do I do next? Instead of saying, "I was upset," I could say, "For a split second, I felt slightly frustrated, but I quickly shifted my mindset." The phrase "for a split second" means for a very short time, The phrase shifted my mindset shows emotional control and maturity. Repeat slowly. For a split second, I felt frustrated, but I shifted my mindset and adapted. The verb adapt is extremely powerful in English. Now, let's turn this into a conversation scenario. Imagine someone asks, "What do you do when something small goes wrong in the morning?" A strong response could be, "I try not to let minor inconveniences derail my entire routine. I remind myself that flexibility is key, and I adjust accordingly." The word derail means to disrupt progress. The phrase flexibility is key is something you will hear often in professional conversations. Practice that entire response mentally. Let's move forward in the morning story. After adjusting my plan, I decide to prepare tea instead. Instead of saying, "I made tea," I could say, "I opted for a cup of tea as a substitute and decided to make the most of the situation." The phrase opted for is advanced and elegant. Instead of chose, you can use opted for. Repeat in your mind, "I opted for one tea and made the most of the situation." That expression can be used in many contexts. Now, imagine that while drinking tea, I receive an early phone call. Instead of saying, "I answered the phone," I can say, "I picked up the phone and was greeted with unexpected news." The phrase "was greeted with" is excellent for storytelling. For example, "I opened the door and was greeted with a smile." Practice this storytelling sentence. I picked up the phone and was greeted with unexpected news that required immediate attention. Notice the phrase, required immediate attention. That's professional vocabulary. Let's build this into a more advanced dialogue. The caller says, "Can you handle this task earlier than planned?" Instead of responding with, "Yes, I can," you might say, "I hadn't anticipated tackling it this early, but I'll rearrange my schedule and prioritize it accordingly." The word anticipated is advanced. The phrase tackle a task is very natural in English. Repeat mentally, "I hadn't anticipated it, but I'll tackle it right away." Now let's practice conditional thinking in English. Conditional sentences are very important for advanced fluency. For example, if I hadn't answered that call, I wouldn't have known about the issue. That's a third conditional sentence. Repeat it slowly in your mind. Another example is, if I start my morning calmly, the rest of the day tends to unfold more smoothly. The phrase unfold smoothly is beautiful and advanced. Practice saying, "When my morning unfolds smoothly, I feel more in control." Let's shift to another real-life scenario. Imagine I step outside for a brief walk before fully starting work. Instead of saying, "I went for a walk," say, "I stepped outside for a brief walk to clear my head and get some fresh air." The phrase "clear my head" is extremely common and very natural. For example, "I need to clear my head before making a decision." Repeat that phrase mentally. During the walk, I might think, "This quiet time allows me to gather my thoughts." The phrase "gather my thoughts" is advanced and useful in conversations. You can say, "Give me a moment to gather my thoughts." Practice that. Then I might say, "It gives me a sense of clarity and direction." The word clarity is very powerful in advanced English. Now, imagine someone asks you, "Why do you value your morning so much?" You could respond, because mornings offer a fresh start. They provide an opportunity to reset, refocus, and approach the day with renewed energy. The word renewed is stronger than simply saying new. Repeat mentally. Mornings allow me to reset and refocus. Let's challenge you again with another spontaneous question. Someone asks, "What happens when your morning doesn't go as planned?" A strong response could be, "When things don't go as planned, I try to stay adaptable. I reassess my priorities and focus on what I can control, rather than dwelling on what went wrong." The verb reassess is advanced. The phrase dwell on means think too much about something negative. Practice that full response carefully in your mind. Now, let's build a longer descriptive practice exercise that combines storytelling and advanced vocabulary. This morning, after waking up and reflecting on my goals, I encountered a few unexpected interruptions. Although they momentarily disrupted my routine, I chose to remain composed and adapt. I rearranged my schedule, opted for alternatives, and focused on maintaining momentum. By the time the workday officially began, I felt prepared and centered. Notice the words, momentarily, remain composed, maintaining momentum, and centered. These words elevate your English dramatically. Take a moment to repeat some of these powerful phrases slowly in your mind. Remain composed. Maintain momentum. Reassess priorities. Clear my head. Gather my thoughts. Unfold smoothly. These are not just vocabulary words. They are building blocks for advanced fluency. Now, let's talk about pronunciation rhythm again. When you say, "I chose to remain composed," emphasize, remain composed. When you say, "I reassessed my priorities," stress, reassessed. Advanced English is not only about vocabulary, it's also about delivery. You are now moving into a stage where your English is becoming more reflective, expressive, and sophisticated. You are describing not only actions, but reactions, not only routines, but resilience. And that is exactly what advanced fluency looks like. Now, we will go even deeper into professional morning conversations, more complex conditional structures, advanced connectors like nevertheless, therefore, and consequently, and we will stretch your storytelling ability even further so you can speak naturally in both casual and professional situations. Now, let's take your English to an even higher level by focusing on advanced connectors and more complex sentence structures that naturally appear in real morning conversations. Because once you begin linking your ideas smoothly, your speech immediately sounds more fluent and sophisticated. Imagine I am describing my morning to a colleague, and I say, "I woke up feeling slightly tired. Nevertheless, so I decided to stick to my routine." The word nevertheless shows contrast in a more advanced way than simply saying but. Repeat that sentence slowly in your mind. "I woke up feeling slightly tired. Nevertheless, I stuck to my routine." You can also use therefore when explaining results. For example, "I woke up earlier than usual. Therefore, I had extra time to prepare." Notice how therefore connects cause and effect clearly. Practice saying, "I organized my tasks in advance. Therefore, I felt more in control." The more you use connectors like nevertheless, therefore, and consequently, the more structured and advanced your English becomes. For instance, I overslept. Consequently, I had to adjust my schedule. The word consequently sounds formal and confident. Now, let's imagine a professional morning interaction. You join a video meeting and someone says, "Emma, could you give us a quick update?" Instead of responding with something basic like, "I did my tasks," you could say, "Certainly. I've made significant progress on the initial phase of the project, and I'm currently refining the details to ensure everything aligns with our objectives." Notice phrases like "made significant progress," "initial phase," "refining the details," and "aligns with our objectives." These are advanced professional expressions. Repeat that full sentence in your mind carefully. Let's make it slightly more spontaneous. Suppose someone interrupts and says, "Did you encounter any challenges this morning?" A confident response would be, "There were a few minor setbacks. However, I addressed them promptly and kept things moving forward." The phrase "kept things moving forward" shows momentum and determination. Instead of saying, "I fixed them," you say, "I addressed them promptly." That shift alone makes your English sound more professional. Now, let's explore deeper storytelling again, but this time using advanced transitions. Imagine I say, "Initially, my morning unfolded smoothly. Shortly afterward, however, I received an unexpected request that required immediate attention. Rather than feeling overwhelmed, I took a step back, reassessed my priorities, and responded strategically." Notice how words like "initially," "shortly afterward," and "rather than" structure the story clearly. Repeat this practice exercise with me mentally to feel the rhythm of advanced English. Another powerful connector is "meanwhile." For example, "I was preparing breakfast. Meanwhile, I was mentally rehearsing my presentation." That shows two actions happening at the same time. Practice saying, "Meanwhile, I stayed focused on what truly mattered." These connectors help you sound organized and articulate. Now, let's challenge your conditional fluency again with slightly more advanced forms. Instead of saying, "If I wake up early, I feel better," you can say, "Whenever I wake up early, I tend to feel more productive throughout the day." The word "throughout" is a nice upgrade from "all day." Or you could say, "Had I not prepared in advance, I would have felt completely unprepared." That inverted conditional structure, "had I not prepared," is advanced English. Repeat slowly. "Had I not organized my schedule, I would have struggled to stay on track." Let's practice a real-life morning conversation that blends casual and professional language. Imagine someone says, "You always seem so calm in the mornings. What's your secret?" A fluent response could be, "I wouldn't say I'm always calm, but I've learned to manage my reactions. Even when things don't go according to plan, I remind myself to pause, breathe, and respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively." Notice "according to plan," "manage my reactions," "respond thoughtfully," and "react impulsively." These contrasts elevate your vocabulary significantly. Now, let's explore emotional nuance even more. Instead of saying, "I was nervous," say, "I felt a slight sense of anticipation before the meeting." The word "anticipation" is more subtle than "nervous." Or you might say, "I experienced a brief moment of self-doubt, but I quickly regained my confidence." The phrase, "regained my confidence," is powerful. Repeat that sentence in your mind slowly and clearly. Let's expand into another advanced storytelling example. As the morning progressed, I noticed my energy levels gradually increasing. Consequently, I was able to tackle more complex tasks with greater efficiency. By mid-morning, I had already accomplished what I had initially set out to do. Notice as the morning progressed, energy levels gradually increasing, tackle more complex tasks, and initially set out to do. The phrase set out to do is excellent advanced English. Now, imagine you are giving advice to someone who struggles with mornings. Instead of saying, wake up early, you might say, establishing a consistent wake-up time can significantly enhance your productivity and mental clarity. The word enhance is stronger than improve. The phrase mental clarity is advanced and expressive. Practice saying, consistency enhances productivity. That short sentence alone sounds confident and fluent. Let's push your fluency further by combining reflection and advice. In my experience, the key to a successful morning lies in preparation. When you prepare the night before, you eliminate unnecessary stress. As a result, your morning flows more smoothly and you feel more composed. Notice the connectors in my experience, and as a result. Repeat this entire practice exercise slowly in your mind to feel its rhythm. Now, let's practice a longer professional response that integrates many of the expressions we've learned so far. Imagine your manager asks, "How do you maintain such steady performance every morning?" You respond, "I focus on establishing clear priorities from the outset. Even if unforeseen challenges arise, I adapt quickly and maintain momentum. Furthermore, I make it a habit to reflect briefly on my progress, which allows me to adjust strategically and stay aligned with my long-term objectives." That is a highly advanced and articulate answer. Notice words like from the outset, unforeseen challenges, maintain momentum, and stay aligned. Repeat that response mentally with confidence. Now, let's slow down and reflect on what you've achieved in this lesson so far. You are no longer simply saying, "I woke up, I drank coffee, I worked." You are expressing cause and effect, emotion, strategy, adaptability, and reflection. You are using connectors, conditional structures, professional vocabulary, and expressive phrases. That transformation is what takes your English from basic to advanced. Take a moment to mentally summarize your own morning using at least 3 advanced connectors like nevertheless, therefore, meanwhile, or consequently. Then add 2 advanced verbs like reassess, adapt, enhance, or maintain. The more you combine them naturally, the more fluent you will become. In the next continuation, we will explore even deeper spontaneous conversation practice, more expressive storytelling, advanced descriptive vocabulary, and persuasive speaking techniques that will help you not only describe your morning, but influence and inspire others through your English. Now, let's move into a more spontaneous and persuasive style of speaking. Because true fluency is not only about describing what happened, it is about expressing opinions, influencing others, and explaining your reasoning clearly and confidently. Imagine someone says to you, "I'm not a morning person at all. I can't function before 10. Instead of responding casually, you could say, "I used to feel the same way. However, I gradually realized that my mornings shape the rest of my day. Once I shifted my perspective, everything started to change." Notice how "I used to feel the same way" creates connection, and "shifted my perspective" sounds thoughtful and advanced. Repeat that response slowly in your mind. You can take it even further by adding persuasive language. For example, if you intentionally design your mornings, you'll notice a significant difference in your productivity and mindset. It's not about waking up extremely early. It's about waking up with purpose. The phrase "wake up with purpose" is powerful and motivational. Practice saying, "It's not about the hour you wake up. It's about the intention you bring to your morning." That sentence sounds mature and reflective. Now, imagine a deeper conversation where someone challenges you. They say, "But what if I don't have enough time in the morning?" A confident answer might be, "Even a small window of time can make a difference." It's less about the duration and more about consistency. When you consistently dedicate even 10 minutes to intentional preparation, the results compound over time. The phrase, "the results compound over time," is advanced and professional. The verb dedicate is stronger than simply use. Repeat that sentence mentally with calm emphasis. Let's explore persuasive storytelling further. There was a time when my mornings felt rushed and chaotic. I would jump out of bed, check my phone immediately, and rush through my routine. As a result, I often felt scattered and unfocused. Eventually, I decided to take control of my mornings rather than letting them control me. Notice the contrast and progression. Words like chaotic, scattered, and unfocused express emotion clearly. The phrase "take control" is strong and direct. Repeat that last sentence carefully. Now, let's practice expressive vocabulary about energy and focus. Instead of saying, "I feel good," you might say, "I feel energized and mentally sharp." Instead of "I'm ready," you could say, "I feel fully prepared to tackle whatever comes my way." The phrase "whatever comes my way" is extremely natural in English. Practice saying, "I'm prepared to handle whatever comes my way today." Let's imagine another professional exchange. Someone says, "Emma, you seem very intentional about your mornings." You could respond, "Intentionality makes all the difference. When you approach your morning deliberately, you minimize distractions and maximize clarity." The words intentionality, deliberately, minimize, and maximize immediately elevate your language. Repeat that sentence in your mind and notice how structured it sounds. Now, let's stretch your fluency by combining descriptive language with persuasive tone. A well-structured morning routine doesn't just improve productivity, it enhances emotional resilience. When challenges arise, you are already grounded and mentally prepared. That foundation creates stability throughout the day. Words like emotional resilience, foundation, and stability are advanced and impactful. Practice repeating this entire practice exercise mentally with me. Let's also focus on rhetorical questions, which are powerful in persuasive speaking. Instead of simply stating advice, you can ask, "What if you began each morning with clarity instead of chaos? What if you replaced rushing with reflection?" These questions encourage deeper thinking. You can then follow with, "Small adjustments can lead to remarkable transformation." The word remarkable adds emphasis. Repeat that phrase slowly. Now, let's return to real conversation practice. Imagine a friend says, "I always procrastinate in the morning." A strong response might be, "Procrastination often stems from feeling overwhelmed. If you break your tasks into manageable steps, you reduce resistance and increase momentum." Notice stems from, manageable steps, and reduce resistance. These phrases show analytical thinking. Repeat the sentence in your mind and pay attention to the rhythm. We can deepen that advice further. Instead of focusing on everything you have to accomplish, concentrate on completing just one meaningful task. Once you gain traction, the rest becomes easier. The phrase gain traction is very powerful. It's often used in business conversations. Practice saying, once you gain traction, momentum builds naturally. Now, let's move into expressive storytelling again. This morning, after clearing my head during a short walk, I returned feeling centered and ready. Although a few unexpected messages awaited me, I approached them calmly and methodically. One by one, I resolved each issue and continued with my priorities. Notice methodically and resolved. Instead of fixed, we use resolved. Repeat that practice exercise mentally and notice how professional it sounds. Let's also practice expressing gratitude in advanced English. Instead of saying, I'm thankful for today, say, I genuinely appreciate the opportunity to start each day with a fresh perspective. The word genuinely makes it more sincere. Or you could say, I don't take my mornings for granted. The phrase take for granted is very important in English. Repeat. I try not to take my mornings for granted. Now, imagine someone asks, how do you stay consistent when life becomes unpredictable? You could answer, consistency doesn't mean perfection. It means returning to your routine even after disruption. Even when circumstances shift, your commitment can remain steady. Notice circumstances shift and commitment can remain steady. These are advanced expressions. Practice that entire response mentally. Let's build a longer persuasive monologue that blends everything together. Over time, I've learned that mornings are not just a part of the day. They are the foundation of it. When I begin with clarity, discipline, and reflection, everything else tends to align naturally. Of course, not every morning unfolds perfectly. Nevertheless, I strive to approach each one with intention. That consistent effort shapes not only my productivity, but also my mindset. This practice exercise contains connectors, reflection, persuasion, and emotional nuance. Repeat it slowly in your mind to internalize the structure. Now, let's focus briefly on advanced descriptive adjectives. Instead of busy morning, say demanding morning. Instead of good routine, say well-structured routine. Instead of hard task, say challenging assignment. The more precise your adjectives become, the more refined your English sounds. Practice combining them in a sentence like, it was a demanding morning, but my well-structured routine helped me handle every challenging assignment. You are now speaking English at a level where you can describe events, explain reasons, persuade others, express emotion, and connect ideas seamlessly. This is the bridge between intermediate and advanced fluency. Take a moment to reflect on your own morning again and describe it in your mind using persuasive language. Explain why your routine matters. Explain how it influences your productivity. Explain how it shapes your mindset. The more you practice forming full, connected practice exercises, the more natural your English will feel. Now, we will deepen your fluency even further by exploring advanced storytelling techniques, subtle tone shifts between casual and formal English, and extended conversation simulations that push your speaking confidence to an even higher level. Now, let's deepen your storytelling ability even more by focusing on tone shifts, because one of the clearest signs of advanced fluency is the ability to adjust your tone depending on who you're speaking to. The way you describe your morning to a close friend is different from how you describe it to your manager, and mastering that flexibility will elevate your English immediately. Imagine I am talking to a close friend. I might say, "So this morning was surprisingly peaceful. I woke up earlier than usual, made myself a cup of tea, and just enjoyed the quiet for a few minutes. It felt refreshing." That sounds relaxed and casual, but if I were speaking to a professional colleague, I might say, "This morning started off on a calm note. I took a few moments to reflect before transitioning into my work responsibilities." Notice the difference between "enjoyed the quiet" and "started off on a calm note." Both describe similar situations, but the tone changes depending on the context. Practice saying both versions slowly in your mind, and feel how the tone shifts. Now, let's simulate a spontaneous morning conversation that requires quick thinking. Someone asks you unexpectedly, "What was the highlight of your morning?" Instead of answering, "My coffee," you could say, "The highlight of my morning was the sense of clarity I felt after organizing my priorities. It set a productive tone for everything that followed." The phrase "everything that followed" creates a natural flow. Repeat that full sentence mentally. If you want to sound even more advanced, you might say, "What stood out the most this morning was how smoothly everything unfolded once I established a clear plan." The phrase "stood out" is extremely common in spoken English. Practice saying, "What stood out the most was," and complete the sentence with your own experience. Let's now practice adding subtle emotion and reflection. Instead of simply describing actions, describe how they made you feel. For example, "After completing my first major task, I experienced a quiet sense of accomplishment." The phrase "a quiet sense of accomplishment" is refined and expressive. You can also say, "It gave me a boost of confidence that carried into the rest of the day." The phrase "carried into" shows continuation. Repeat that sentence slowly in your mind. Now, imagine you are mentoring someone who wants to improve their English. They ask, "How can I make my daily routine more meaningful?" You could respond, "Start by becoming aware of how you speak about your routine. Instead of using short, simple sentences, expand your thoughts. Add detail, emotion, and explanation." Over time, this habit will naturally elevate your fluency. Notice the verbs "becoming aware," "expand," and "elevate." Practice saying that entire response mentally. Let's build a longer, more complex narrative about a morning challenge and how you handled it. Earlier this week, I woke up feeling slightly overwhelmed by the number of tasks awaiting me. For a moment, I considered postponing some responsibilities. However, I reminded myself that avoidance would only increase the pressure later. So I broke each task down into manageable steps and tackled them one at a time. By mid-morning, what initially seemed overwhelming felt entirely achievable. Notice the contrast between overwhelming and achievable. That transformation shows growth and resilience. Repeat this practice exercise with me slowly and confidently. Now, let's practice advanced comparative structures. Instead of saying, "Today was better than yesterday," you could say, "This morning felt significantly more productive than the previous one." The word "significantly" strengthens your comparison. Or you might say, compared to last week, I feel far more focused and intentional. The phrase compared to is very useful in conversations. Practice creating your own comparison in your mind. Let's also explore expressing uncertainty in an advanced way. Instead of saying, I'm not sure, you could say, I'm not entirely certain, but I believe my preparation made a noticeable difference. The phrase, not entirely certain, sounds more refined. Or you could say, it's difficult to pinpoint exactly what changed, yet I sense a shift in my mindset. The verb pinpoint is advanced and precise. Repeat that sentence mentally. Now, let's simulate a longer professional conversation. Imagine someone asks, Emma, how do you maintain consistency without burning out? A thoughtful response could be, I make a conscious effort to balance productivity with rest. While discipline is important, sustainability matters even more. Therefore, I ensure that my routine includes moments of pause and reflection, which prevent exhaustion and maintain long-term motivation. Notice how connectors like while and therefore create structure. Repeat this response carefully in your mind. We can expand that idea further. Burnout often occurs when effort is intense, but direction is unclear. When you align your actions with your priorities, your energy feels purposeful rather than draining. Words like align, purposeful, and draining deepen your vocabulary. Practice that entire practice exercise slowly with me. Now, let's focus on advanced storytelling transitions. Instead of saying then, you can say shortly thereafter, or moments later, or as the morning progressed. These transitions create smoother narratives. For example, moments later, I realized that staying calm had completely changed the outcome. Practice substituting then with these more advanced transitions in your mind. Let's also refine descriptive language even further. Instead of quiet morning, say tranquil morning. Instead of big problem, say significant obstacle. Instead of quick decision, say swift decision. Practice forming a sentence like, despite encountering a significant obstacle, I made a swift decision and preserved the tranquil atmosphere of my morning. That sentence shows high-level fluency. Now, let's create an extended reflection that combines tone, connectors, emotion, and advanced vocabulary. Looking back on this morning, I realized that what truly made a difference was not the absence of challenges, but my response to them. Although interruptions occurred, I maintained composure and adapted thoughtfully. Consequently, the day unfolded with clarity and momentum. This reinforces my belief that mindset shapes experience far more than circumstances do. Repeat it slowly to absorb the rhythm. At this point, your English is becoming layered and expressive. You are combining descriptive storytelling, professional vocabulary, persuasive reasoning, and emotional awareness. That combination is what transforms a basic speaker into a fluent and confident communicator. Take a moment now and mentally describe your entire morning from beginning to midday, using at least 5 advanced connectors and 5 expressive verbs. Do not rush. Imagine you are speaking clearly and confidently to someone who values your thoughts. The more you practice structured storytelling, the more naturally your fluency will develop. Now, we will push your fluency to an even higher level by practicing longer, uninterrupted monologues advanced paraphrasing techniques, and powerful vocabulary substitutions that allow you to say the same idea in multiple sophisticated ways. Now, let's push your fluency to an even higher level by practicing extended monologues and advanced paraphrasing techniques, because one of the clearest signs of advanced English is the ability to express the same idea in multiple refined ways, without repeating yourself. This skill allows you to sound natural, confident, and flexible in real conversations. Imagine I want to say something simple like, "My morning was productive." That's correct. But let's explore several advanced variations. I could say, "My morning turned out to be highly productive." I could also say, "I accomplished a substantial amount before noon." Or, I managed to make remarkable progress in a relatively short period of time." Each sentence communicates productivity, yet each one adds depth and sophistication. Practice repeating all three versions slowly in your mind, and notice how the meaning stays similar while the language becomes richer. Now, let's try paraphrasing emotional experiences. Basic version: I felt stressed at first. Advanced versions: I initially experienced a wave of stress. Or, at the outset, I felt a surge of pressure. Or even, at the beginning, the weight of my responsibilities felt overwhelming. Notice how wave of stress, surge of pressure, and weight of my responsibilities create vivid imagery. Paraphrasing like this makes your English expressive and powerful. Repeat these alternatives mentally. Let's now build a long, uninterrupted monologue about a complete morning experience, using advanced vocabulary and smooth connectors. This morning began earlier than expected, as I woke up just before my alarm went off. Rather than drifting back to sleep, I decided to seize the opportunity to start my day with intention. After taking a few moments to stretch and gather my thoughts, I brewed a fresh cup of coffee and quietly reflected on my priorities. Although a few unexpected emails awaited me, I approached them methodically and resolved the most urgent matters first. As the morning progressed, my focus sharpened and my confidence grew. By mid-morning, I had already completed tasks that would normally take much longer, which left me feeling accomplished and motivated. Read this practice exercise slowly in your mind and observe how the ideas connect smoothly. Now, let's practice paraphrasing this same story in a slightly different style. I found myself awake moments before my alarm, which gave me a valuable head start. Instead of lingering in bed, I chose to rise immediately and channel that early energy into purposeful action. Following a brief stretch, I prepared my coffee and mentally outlined my objectives for the day. Despite encountering a handful of unexpected messages, I addressed them efficiently and maintained momentum. As a result, the remainder of my morning unfolded with clarity and steady progress. Notice how the structure changed, but the meaning remained similar. That is advanced paraphrasing in action. Let's strengthen your vocabulary substitution skills even more. Instead of saying, "I handled the situation," you can say, "I managed the situation effectively," or "I navigated the situation with composure," or "I dealt with the issue in a constructive manner." Each variation subtly changes tone and level of sophistication. Practice switching between these versions in your mind. Now, imagine someone asks you to summarize your morning quickly. You might respond concisely by saying, "Sir, overall, my morning was smooth and efficient." But if they ask for more detail, you can expand naturally. Overall, my morning unfolded smoothly. I maintained focus, addressed pressing matters promptly, and established a strong foundation for the rest of the day. The phrase "established a strong foundation" is especially powerful. Repeat that entire expanded response mentally. Let's challenge you with an advanced descriptive exercise. I will describe a scenario in simple terms, and then we will upgrade it together. Basic version. I had a lot of work, but I finished it. Advanced version. Although my workload was heavier than usual, I managed to complete every assignment within the allotted time. Notice workload, heavier than usual, and within the allotted time. Practice repeating that advanced version slowly. Another example. See a basic sentence. I felt proud of myself. Advanced version. I experienced a genuine sense of pride in what I had accomplished. Or, completing my tasks gave me a deep sense of fulfillment. The word fulfillment adds emotional richness. Repeat these phrases mentally and pay attention to their tone. Now, let's build an even longer uninterrupted monologue, stretching your listening and comprehension skills. There was a moment this morning when I felt tempted to postpone a challenging task. The thought of delaying it briefly crossed my mind. Nevertheless, I recognized that avoidance would only prolong the pressure. Therefore, I took a deep breath, organized my notes, and confronted the task directly. Once I began, I realized it was far less daunting than I had imagined. That realization reinforced an important lesson. Often, the anticipation of difficulty is more overwhelming than the task itself. Notice the contrast between anticipation of difficulty and the task itself. Repeat this practice exercise slowly in your mind. Now, let's explore tone shifts again by retelling the same scenario casually. This morning, I almost put off a difficult task, but I decided to just get it over with. Once I started, it wasn't nearly as bad as I expected. The meaning is similar, but the tone is relaxed. Understanding how to adjust between formal and casual expression is a key sign of advanced fluency. Let's practice persuasive paraphrasing as well. If I say, "Mornings are important," that sounds basic. A more persuasive version would be, "Mornings serve as the blueprint for the rest of the day." Or, "The quality of your morning often determines the trajectory of your entire day." Words like blueprint and trajectory elevate your language significantly. Repeat both advanced versions in your mind, now. Or imagine you are giving advice in a professional workshop. You might say, to maximize productivity, prioritize clarity at the start of your day, establish realistic objectives, eliminate unnecessary distractions, and approach each task with deliberate focus. Notice verbs like maximize, establish, eliminate, and approach. These verbs make your English strong and direct. Practice repeating that practice exercise mentally. Let's also refine your ability to expand short answers into detailed responses. If someone asks, "Was your morning stressful?" instead of replying, "A little," you can say, "There were brief moments of pressure, particularly when unexpected requests surfaced. However, I remained composed and managed each situation systematically." The word systematically shows order and strategy. Repeat that full response slowly in your mind. You are now training your brain, not only to understand advanced English, but to produce it. Paraphrasing strengthens flexibility Extended monologues build confidence, and vocabulary substitution refines your speech. The more variations you practice, the less likely you are to get stuck searching for words during real conversations. Take a moment now to mentally retell your own morning in two completely different styles, one formal and reflective, and one casual and conversational. Notice how changing just a few words can shift the tone entirely. That awareness is the hallmark of advanced fluency. Now, we will continue expanding your speaking stamina by practicing even longer uninterrupted reflections, advanced idiomatic expressions, and subtle emotional storytelling techniques that will make your English sound authentic, confident, and compelling. Now, let's expand your fluency even further by integrating advanced idiomatic expressions and subtle emotional storytelling into your morning narrative, because idioms are a natural part of real English conversations, and when you use them correctly, your speech immediately sounds more authentic and native-like. Imagine I describe my morning by saying, "I hit the ground running today." This idiom means I started my day with immediate energy and focus. Instead of saying, "I started quickly," you can say, "I hit the ground running and got straight to work." Repeat that sentence slowly in your mind. Another common expression is, "I had a lot on my plate." This means you had many responsibilities. You could say, "I had quite a lot on my plate this morning, but I handled it efficiently." Practice that full sentence mentally. Let's incorporate another idiom. Suppose something unexpected happened, but you managed to stay calm. You might say, "I didn't let it throw me off balance." The phrase "throw me off balance" means disturb your stability. Or you could say, "I kept my cool despite the pressure." The idiom "kept my cool" is widely used. Repeat slowly. Even under pressure, I kept my cool and focused on solutions. Now, so let's create an extended emotional reflection using idiomatic language. At one point this morning, I felt like I was juggling too many responsibilities at once. Emails were coming in, deadlines were approaching, and interruptions seemed constant. For a brief moment, it felt as though everything was piling up. However, instead of panicking, I took a step back, prioritized my tasks, and tackled them one by one. Before long, the chaos subsided, and I regained control. Notice phrases like juggling responsibilities, piling up, and tackled them one by one. Repeat this practice exercise slowly in your mind and feel the rhythm. Let's practice replacing simple verbs with more dynamic alternatives again. Instead of, "I started working," say, "I dove into my assignments." Instead of, "I finished my work," say, "I wrapped up my tasks." Instead of, "I continued," say, "I carried on." These small substitutions make your English more natural. Practice combining them into one sentence. I dove into my assignments early, wrapped up the most urgent ones, and carried on with steady focus. Now, imagine someone asks, "How do you stay motivated every single morning?" A refined response could be, "Motivation doesn't always come naturally. Sometimes you have to create it. I remind myself why my goals matter, and that perspective reignites my drive." The verb reignite is strong and expressive. Repeat that sentence carefully in your mind. Let's explore subtle emotional storytelling. There was a quiet moment this morning when I paused with my coffee in hand and simply observed the silence around me. That stillness allowed me to reset mentally and approach the rest of the day with renewed clarity. Words like stillness, reset, and renewed clarity deepen your expression. Practice that practice exercise slowly and confidently with me. Now, let's combine advanced idioms with professional vocabulary. Even though my schedule was packed, I refused to let it overwhelm me. I broke down each responsibility into manageable pieces and stayed on top of my commitments. The phrase "stayed on top of" means maintained control. Repeat this sentence in your mind. Another useful idiom is, "I got the ball rolling." This means you initiated something. For example, I got the ball rolling by responding to the most urgent emails first. Practice saying that sentence clearly. You can also say, "Once I got the ball rolling, everything else fell into place." The phrase "fell into place" means everything started working smoothly. Let's practice a longer persuasive narrative with idioms included. This morning wasn't perfect, but I didn't let that derail my focus. I had a tight schedule, and several responsibilities competing for my attention. Nevertheless, I hit the ground running, got the ball rolling on my most demanding task, and stayed on top of my priorities. By the time mid-morning arrived, everything had fallen into place, and I felt a strong sense of accomplishment. This practice exercise combines connectors, idioms, and reflection. Repeat it slowly in your mind, now. Let's stretch your speaking stamina with a longer, uninterrupted monologue that blends emotion, idioms, advanced connectors, and descriptive language. As I reflect on this morning, I realize that what truly shaped it was not the absence of challenges, but my response to them. At first, I felt as though I had too much on my plate. Tasks were piling up, and the pressure was beginning to mount. However, I reminded myself that staying composed would make all the difference, so I took a deep breath, got the ball rolling on the most urgent matter, and gradually worked my way through the rest. Before long, the sense of overwhelm faded, and I found myself back on track, moving forward with clarity and purpose. Notice how smoothly the ideas connect. Repeat this practice exercise carefully to internalize its rhythm. Let's also practice expressing contrast and balance more elegantly. Instead of saying, "It was hard but good," you can say, "Although the morning presented its share of challenges, it ultimately proved to be rewarding." The phrase "presented its share of challenges" is advanced and professional. Practice that sentence in your mind. Now, imagine someone asks, "What's the biggest lesson you've learned about mornings?" A thoughtful answer could be, "I've learned that discipline outweighs mood. Even when I don't feel particularly inspired, showing up consistently makes a significant difference. Over time, that consistency builds confidence and momentum." Notice outweighs, showing up consistently, and builds momentum. Repeat this response slowly and clearly in your mind. You are now operating at a level where you can weave together idiomatic expressions, advanced vocabulary, emotional reflection, and persuasive structure seamlessly. This is not basic English anymore. This is confident, layered, and expressive communication. Take a moment now and mentally describe your own morning using at least 3 idioms and 3 advanced connectors. Don't rush. Imagine you are explaining your routine to someone who genuinely wants to learn from you. Feel the flow of your sentences. Notice how your ideas connect. Now, we will further extend your fluency by exploring advanced storytelling arcs, subtle humor in conversation, deeper emotional nuance, and extended real-life conversation simulations that challenge your listening and speaking endurance. Now, let's elevate your fluency even further by exploring advanced storytelling arcs and subtle humor in morning conversations, because real-life English is not always serious or formal. Sometimes it is light, reflective, or even playful. Being able to shift into that tone naturally shows true confidence in the language. Imagine someone asks you casually, "Are you always this organized in the morning?" Instead of giving a flat answer like, "Yes, so I am," you could smile and say, "I try to be, although I have my moments." That phrase, "I have my moments," adds light humor. You can also say, "Let's just say I've learned the hard way what happens when I don't plan ahead." The phrase "learned the hard way" is an idiomatic expression meaning you learned through mistakes. Repeat that phrase slowly in your mind. Now, let's build a storytelling arc that includes a challenge, a turning point, and a resolution. There was a time when my mornings felt chaotic and unpredictable. I would rush out of bed, skip breakfast, and react to whatever appeared on my phone screen. Consequently, my entire day felt disorganized. Eventually, I realized that I needed to take responsibility for how my mornings unfolded. That realization became a turning point. From then on, I began waking up earlier, setting clear intentions, and approaching each day with purpose. Gradually, the chaos transformed into clarity. Notice how this story has progression and transformation. Repeat this practice exercise with me slowly to feel the natural rhythm. Now, let's practice adding subtle humor to a stressful moment. This morning, for instance, my alarm didn't go off as planned. For a brief second, I stared at the clock in disbelief. I could practically hear time ticking louder than usual. Nevertheless, instead of panicking, I moved quickly, adjusted my routine, and reminded myself that even the best plans occasionally fall apart. The phrase "fall apart" is natural and expressive. Humor often comes from exaggeration. Like, I could practically hear time ticking louder than usual. Practice that sentence in your mind. Let's also work on emotional nuance, because advanced fluency requires subtle emotional expression. Instead of saying, "I felt good," you could say, "I felt a quiet sense of satisfaction." Instead of "I felt worried," you might say, "I felt a subtle undercurrent of concern." Words like undercurrent and subtle show depth. Repeat, "I felt a subtle undercurrent of concern, but I didn't let it dictate my actions." Now, imagine you are in a deeper, reflective conversation. Someone asks, "Do you ever feel overwhelmed despite having a routine?" A thoughtful response might be, "Absolutely." A routine doesn't eliminate challenges. It simply provides a framework for navigating them. Even on demanding mornings, having structure gives me something stable to rely on. The phrase "framework for navigating them" sounds advanced and articulate. Practice that response slowly. Let's build a long, uninterrupted monologue that integrates humor, reflection, and advanced connectors. This morning reminded me that even the most carefully crafted plans can be disrupted. Initially, I felt slightly frustrated when I realized I was running behind schedule, However, rather than allowing that frustration to escalate, I chose to laugh at the situation. After all, perfection is unrealistic. Once I regained my composure, I adjusted my priorities and moved forward with renewed determination. By the end of the morning, what could have been a stressful experience became a lesson in flexibility. Notice how smoothly the emotions shift from frustration to humor to determination. Repeat this practice exercise with me carefully. Now, let's explore persuasive storytelling again, but with a more inspirational tone. If there's one thing my mornings have taught me, it's that small decisions accumulate into significant outcomes. Choosing to wake up with intention, choosing to prepare thoughtfully, and choosing to respond calmly might seem minor in isolation. Nevertheless, over time, those small decisions create a powerful ripple effect. The phrase "in isolation" is advanced. Repeat that full practice exercise mentally. We can also deepen your emotional storytelling by describing atmosphere. The house was still quiet. And the world outside seemed unhurried. That peaceful environment gave me space to think clearly. For a few precious minutes, there was no urgency, no noise, and no distraction. That stillness felt restorative. Words like unhurried, precious, and restorative enrich your vocabulary. Practice that description slowly in your mind. Now, imagine a realistic conversation where someone challenges your optimism. They say, "That sounds nice, but not everyone has calm mornings." A balanced response could be, "That's true. Not every morning is calm. Nevertheless, even in busy households or demanding environments, you can carve out small pockets of clarity. It's not about perfection. It's about intention." The phrase "carve out small pockets of clarity" is expressive and advanced. Repeat that phrase carefully. Let's also refine how you summarize your morning in a compelling way. Instead of saying, "It was a good morning," say, "It was a meaningful morning that reinforced the value of preparation and adaptability." Notice the word "reinforced." It shows learning and reflection. Practice saying that sentence clearly in your mind. Now, let's build another extended storytelling arc, this time focusing on resilience. There was a moment this morning when I felt the pressure building. My schedule was tight, and interruptions seemed unavoidable. For a split second, I considered postponing a critical task. However, I recognized that delaying it would only intensify the stress later. So I took a breath, now confronted the task directly, and completed it sooner than expected. That experience reminded me that courage often lies in action rather than avoidance. Notice the phrase, "courage often lies in action." Repeat this entire practice exercise slowly and confidently. You are now practicing high-level narrative control. You can introduce a challenge, build tension, insert humor or reflection, and resolve it thoughtfully. This storytelling arc is a powerful tool for fluency. It allows you to speak longer without hesitation because your ideas follow a clear emotional progression. Take a moment now and mentally craft your own short story about a morning obstacle and how you overcame it. Include at least one advanced connector like "nevertheless" or "however," one idiom like "hit the ground running," and one emotional phrase like a sense of relief or a surge of confidence. Feel how naturally your English flows when you structure it as a story. In the next continuation, we will bring everything together in even longer conversation simulations, blending professional dialogue, casual humor, persuasive explanation, and deep reflection into extended speaking practice that strengthens your endurance and confidence even further. Now, let's bring everything together into longer, more realistic conversation simulations that test your speaking endurance and your ability to think in English without translating. At this level, your goal is not just to form correct sentences, but to sustain a clear, structured flow of ideas for an extended period of time. So imagine this scenario. You arrive at work or join an online meeting, and someone says, "Emma, son, you seem especially focused today. Did something change in your routine?" Instead of giving a short reply, you respond thoughtfully, "I've been refining my mornings lately. I realize that the way I start my day directly influences how I handle challenges later on. So I've become more intentional about protecting that early window of time. I wake up slightly earlier, minimize distractions, and concentrate on setting a clear direction before the day gains momentum." Notice how that answer unfolds gradually, with explanation and reasoning, rather than just description. Now, let's stretch that response even further. Previously, I would react to whatever demanded my attention first. Emails, notifications, and unexpected requests would dictate my pace. However, I've shifted toward a more proactive approach. Instead of reacting, I decide in advance what deserves my attention. That subtle shift has transformed my productivity. The contrast between reactive and proactive thinking is powerful. Repeat this entire explanation slowly in your mind. Imagine another person responds. "But what if unexpected problems disrupt your plans?" A fluent answer might be, "Unexpected problems are inevitable. The key difference lies in how you respond. When you begin your day with clarity, you're less likely to be thrown off course. You may need to adjust your priorities, but you won't lose your sense of direction." The phrase "thrown off course" is metaphorical and expressive. Practice saying that sentence calmly. Now, so let's create an extended dialogue-style monologue that blends professional and personal tone. This morning, for example, I had mapped out my priorities carefully. Shortly after beginning my first task, an urgent message arrived requesting immediate input. My initial instinct was frustration because I value uninterrupted focus. Nevertheless, I paused and reassessed. I asked myself whether the request truly required instant action, or whether it could wait. Once I evaluated its urgency, I adjusted my plan accordingly. By doing so, I preserved both efficiency and composure. Notice how analytical and reflective this sounds. Repeat it slowly to absorb the structure. Let's deepen this even more by incorporating emotional insight. There's a psychological component to mornings that often goes unnoticed. When you feel rushed from the outset, your nervous system remains in a heightened state of stress. On the other hand, when you begin calmly and deliberately, you cultivate stability that carries forward. I've noticed that this internal steadiness shapes not only my actions, but also my tone in conversations. Words like psychological component, heightened state, and internal steadiness reflect advanced fluency. Practice repeating that practice exercise with me carefully. Now, shall imagine a mentoring conversation. Someone says, "I want to sound more fluent when I describe my routine, but I run out of things to say." A confident answer might be, Fluency doesn't come from having extraordinary experiences. It comes from describing ordinary experiences with depth. Instead of listing actions, explain your reasoning, your emotions, and your outcomes. That expansion naturally lengthens your response and strengthens your vocabulary. Notice how that advice itself models advanced explanation. Repeat that response in your mind. Let's now build one of the longest uninterrupted reflections so far, combining storytelling, persuasion, and insight. When I look back at how my mornings used to unfold, I see a pattern of reactivity and haste. I would wake up already thinking about unfinished tasks, and that mindset created pressure before the day had even begun. Over time, I realized that my external environment wasn't the primary issue. My internal approach was, by shifting my focus toward intention rather than urgency, I gradually transformed the rhythm of my mornings. Now, even when unexpected interruptions arise, I respond with measured clarity instead of impulsive stress. That shift has enhanced not only my productivity, but also my sense of well-being. This practice exercise demonstrates advanced reflection and layered reasoning. Read it slowly in your mind, and notice how each sentence builds on the previous one. Now, let's practice persuasive explanation again. Imagine someone is skeptical and says, "It's just a morning. How much difference can it really make?" You respond, "A single morning might not change everything." However, repeated mornings shape patterns, and patterns shape outcomes. The cumulative effect of small, consistent decisions is far more powerful than isolated bursts of effort. The word cumulative is especially strong here. Repeat that entire response carefully. Let's incorporate subtle motivational language, without exaggeration. I'm not suggesting that every morning must be flawless. Perfection is unrealistic. Instead, I advocate for progress. Even incremental improvement compounds over time. A slightly calmer start today can evolve into sustained confidence tomorrow. Words like advocate, incremental, and sustained elevate your tone. Practice saying that practice exercise slowly and confidently now. She imagines summarizing your entire philosophy about mornings in one extended answer. For me, mornings represent opportunity. They are a blank canvas before responsibilities intensify. By approaching them thoughtfully, I create a stable foundation that supports the rest of my day. Of course, unpredictability remains unavoidable. Nevertheless, intentional preparation equips me to navigate challenges with resilience. Ultimately, the quality of my morning shapes the quality of my response to everything that follows. Notice how structured and balanced this summary sounds. Repeat it mentally with steady pacing. You have now practiced description, paraphrasing, persuasion, emotional nuance, humor, professional tone, and extended reflection. You have built stamina by sustaining long monologues without losing coherence. That endurance is essential for true fluency. Before we move further, take a deep mental pause and try to speak in your mind for 1 full minute about your own morning, without stopping. Describe how you woke up, how you handled challenges, how you structured your priorities, and what lesson you learned. Do not rush. Focus on clarity and connection between ideas. In the final continuation, we will consolidate everything you've learned into one powerful closing monologue. that ties together advanced vocabulary, real conversation practice, emotional depth, and confident expression, leaving you with a strong sense of accomplishment and fluency. Now, let's consolidate everything you've practiced into one extended, powerful reflection that blends advanced vocabulary, emotional awareness, storytelling, persuasion, and real conversational structure into a single flowing monologue. This is where you truly test your fluency. Imagine you are asked to describe your entire morning journey, from the moment you opened your eyes until you felt fully engaged in your day. Instead of listing events, you narrate the experience thoughtfully. This morning began quietly, before the rest of the world seemed fully awake. I opened my eyes a few minutes before my alarm, and rather than drifting back to sleep, I chose to embrace that early stillness. That small decision set the tone for everything that followed. After stretching and gathering my thoughts, I moved deliberately through the first steps of my routine. I brewed my coffee, reflected briefly on my priorities, and resisted the urge to let notifications dictate my focus. Although interruptions inevitably surfaced, I approached them with clarity rather than haste. By mid-morning, I had not only completed several meaningful tasks, but also strengthened my sense of direction for the day ahead. Notice how this reflection combines description with reasoning and outcome. Now, let's deepen it even further. There was a moment when I felt the familiar pressure of responsibility building. My schedule was demanding, and the temptation to rush was strong. However, I reminded myself that speed without intention often leads to mistakes, so I slowed down just enough to regain composure. That pause allowed me to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. As a result, what could have escalated into stress transformed into steady progress. This practice exercise demonstrates emotional control and strategic thinking. Now, let's imagine someone listening carefully and asking, "What truly made the difference this morning?" A strong, advanced answer might be, "The difference wasn't in the tasks themselves. It was in my approach. I shifted from reacting to planning, from rushing to pacing, and from worrying to prioritizing. That internal adjustment created external results." The contrast between reacting and planning, rushing and pacing, worrying and prioritizing, gives your speech rhythm and depth. Let's stretch your fluency further by incorporating a full analytical reflection. If I compare this morning to how my days used to begin, the contrast is striking. Previously, I would wake up already feeling behind, as though the day were controlling me. Now, I view the morning as a strategic window of opportunity. It is a period when I can establish clarity before complexity emerges. That perspective shift has reshaped not only my productivity, but also my confidence. Words like strategic window of opportunity and perspective shift elevate your tone significantly. Now, imagine explaining this philosophy in a professional discussion about performance and growth. Sustainable productivity is rarely the result of dramatic changes. It stems from consistent, intentional habits. When mornings are structured with clarity, they serve as an anchor throughout unpredictable circumstances. Even when disruptions occur, that anchor prevents complete derailment. The metaphor of an anchor adds imagery and sophistication. Let's also integrate emotional nuance. One final time. Beyond productivity, My mornings influence my emotional equilibrium. When I begin calmly, I notice that my interactions throughout the day become more patient and measured. Conversely, when I rush, my responses tend to feel reactive. Recognizing this pattern has motivated me to protect the first hour of my day as a period of stability and self-reflection. The word equilibrium expresses balance in an advanced way. Now, imagine summarizing your entire morning philosophy in a powerful closing reflection that demonstrates advanced fluency without exaggeration. Ultimately, a morning is more than a sequence of actions. It is a mindset in motion. Each small choice, whether to pause or rush, to reflect or react, accumulates into the rhythm of the day. By approaching the start of each day with intention, I cultivate resilience, clarity, and steady progress. The challenges remain, the responsibilities persist, and unpredictability never disappears. Nevertheless, a well-guided morning equips me to navigate whatever unfolds. With confidence and composure, take a final moment to mentally repeat key advanced phrases you've practiced throughout this lesson. Set the tone. Maintain composure. Reassess priorities. Gain traction. Hit the ground running. Carve out clarity. Cumulative effect. Strategic adjustment. Sustained momentum. Emotional equilibrium. These phrases are no longer isolated vocabulary items. They are part of your expressive toolkit. Now, imagine describing your own morning in the same layered, structured way. Describe not only what you did, but why you did it. Explain how you felt, how you adapted, how you grew, and what you learned. Speak in full, connected practice exercises. Let your ideas unfold gradually and logically. Focus on clarity, rhythm, and intention rather than speed. This is what it means to elevate basic English into advanced fluency. It is not about using complicated words randomly. It is about using precise language deliberately. It is about connecting actions with reasoning, challenges with responses, and experiences with insight. When you practice speaking this way consistently, your confidence strengthens naturally. Your morning routine is no longer just a daily habit. It has become a framework for powerful communication, reflective thinking, and articulate expression. And the more you practice telling your story with intention and depth, the more fluent, composed, and persuasive your English will become. Thank you so much for spending this time with me and for committing yourself to improving your English step by step. I truly hope that today's deep dive into my morning routine, real English conversations, advanced phrases, storytelling, and reflective speaking has shown you something important. Fluency is not built overnight. It is built through consistent, intentional practice with real-life language. Remember, you don't need extraordinary experiences to speak extraordinary English. You simply need to describe your ordinary experiences with clarity, structure, and depth. Talk about your mornings, explain your decisions, describe your emotions, reflect on your challenges. And most importantly, keep expanding your sentences just a little further each time. That small expansion is where real progress happens. If you found this lesson helpful, make sure you stay consistent with your daily English practice. Revisit these phrases, repeat the monologues, paraphrase your own routine in different ways, and challenge yourself to speak for 1 full minute, without stopping. The more you stretch your speaking stamina, the more natural your fluency will become. Keep building your vocabulary, keep refining your mindset, and keep showing up for your English journey every single day. I'm proud of the effort you're making, and I truly believe that if you continue practicing with intention, advanced fluency is absolutely within your reach. I'll see you in the next lesson. Until then, keep practicing, stay confident, and never stop improving your English.